Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. I don't know what's going on. I feel like my camera is sideways, so if I look sideways, I've tried everything and I don't know what's happening, but I can't fix it. So anyways, we're just gonna deal with that. I know there wasn't a video last week. I'm going through a very stressful time in my life, but hopefully things start looking up soon. So I'm sitting here and I'm going to film a video for you guys today. Also on top of that, before everything got extremely stressful, I started looking into like this conspiracy that I have on my own. I haven't seen anybody else talk about it online or anywhere, but it is something that I very, very strongly believe. So I started compacting information about that conspiracy theory into a book, and I'm thinking about doing a video on that for you guys. If that is something that you would be interested in, please let me know in the comments down below. But with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. Today we are going to be talking about the Belmez Faces. Now this all took place in August of 1971 when a woman by the name of Maria Gomez Camara or Pereira, it changed from article to article, noticed a strange stain that appeared on her kitchen floor. Now this floor was made out of concrete, and obviously the fact that there was a stain appearing on the kitchen floor isn't that odd, as people often drop things in the kitchen and that would leave a stain of some sort. However, this was not your average stain. As time progressed, Maria could have sworn that this stain on the floor appeared to be a face. Now, I know sometimes that you can look at like shapes or whatever and you can see faces and things like that within them, but this wasn't like that. This was definitely a face, and not only was it a face, but it was an extremely, extremely creepy one. Now, Maria did everything to try and remove this stain from the floor. She scrubbed it, she used all kind of cleaning products, but no matter what she did, the face would not come out. And as time progressed, Maria also swore that this face was changing positions. Maria ended up being so disturbed by this stain on the floor that she started to share her concerns with her husband and her son. And she was very visibly absolutely disturbed. Like, this was not something that she ever wanted to see again. And so because of this, her husband and her son decided that they were going to get rid of the stain once and for all. So they took an axe and they completely removed that piece of flooring, and then they re-cemented it so that the face would be gone and Maria's mind could be completely settled. After removing the stain from the floor, the family hoped that this would really settle Maria's mind and that they could all go back to living a normal life without that stain being on the ground. However, after just a couple of weeks, a new face appeared on the newly laid concrete, and this one was even more like distinctively a face. Like, there was no denying the fact that this stain on the floor resembled that of a face. Now obviously this is completely insane. This is such a weird phenomenon, and this left the entire family really shaken up, wondering what the heck was going on with this flooring. Now obviously with the first one appearing, you could just brush this off as something had fallen on the floor, something was staining the floor, and it smudged to look like a face. But with this second one appearing, there was absolutely no denying the fact that this resembled a face, and nobody could figure out how it got there, what it came from, and it just really was leaving everybody extremely puzzled. This second stain that appeared on the floor definitely looked more disturbing than the first one, and Maria claimed that after the second stain had appeared, she started to feel like this really dark presence in her home, and she said that she could have sworn while she was working in the kitchen that she could actually feel the stain watching her. Word of this phenomenon and the weird, strange face on the floor started to spread around the small village like wildfire until it eventually reached that of the mayor. And the mayor was so fascinated at this that he completely called all work on this flooring to stop. He didn't want them to remove the flooring or alter it at all. And he actually hired his own people to go in and study the floor and remove that piece of concrete and really look at it to figure out what was going on here. Something else to note here is that after the word started spreading about these faces, the family became very well known in their small village. They were almost like celebrities, and they absolutely hated this attention, so much to the point that they almost wished that they had kept all of this information to themselves, because they really didn't like being in the public eye. They didn't like being criticized. They didn't like people questioning them, and they had just wished that nobody had known about this except themselves. In April of that year, a professor had traveled to that village to kind kind of study the faces. He was extremely interested in this. He had heard about it and he traveled there to study them, and he started to look into historical documents, and that is when he had found that a local of that village several years earlier had been accused of murdering a family of 5 and burying them somewhere in the village. Because of this, he thought that maybe the family of 5 was buried underneath Maria's home, and that is why these faces were appearing on the floor. Because of this professor's theory, they thought that it would be in their best interest to dig up the flooring of Maria's home. And so they went ahead and they did that, and they started to dig, and that is when about 8 to 9 feet down, they had actually found several human corpses, some of which were even missing their heads. Is that not absolutely insane? They found these headless bodies underneath the floor, pretty much directly right underneath where these faces were appearing on the kitchen floor. These kind of phenomena do not make any sense to me. They completely blow my mind. I don't understand how something like this could happen, but it is so insane. These remains were tested, and several of them ended up being over 600 years old. But anyways, they extracted these remains and they decided to give them a proper burial and lay these people to rest. And after that was done, everybody really thought that this was going to be the end of it. The bodies had all seemingly been recovered, they were all now laid to rest in peace, and the family was really just done with this, and they were hoping that was that. However, that was not the case. 2 weeks after they had laid these bodies to rest, that is when another face would appear on the floor, and then just 2 weeks after that, a woman's face would also appear on the flooring, surrounded by several other faces, all on the newly laid concrete. It had seemed as if removing these bodies and laying them to rest only made things that much worse, as these faces started to rapidly appear on the floor, and now they seem to be changing positions within the span of just a few hours. At this point, this had become worldwide news, and people were traveling from all over the place to look at and study these faces. Something else to note about this is that the concrete that the faces were appearing on was tested, and just to make sure that this was all appearing authentically and that there were no dyes or anything like that on the concrete that could be causing this, and there wasn't, proving that these were appearing naturally. Or, well, unnaturally. Supernaturally, if you would say that. The professor who had looked into the background of the home and the history of the village, and who was the one to discover that there was bodies buried underneath the house, continued to look into this case, and he started to make several recordings within the home. And these recordings are extremely creepy. I will try and insert them here, but it's almost like you can hear like these really horrific yells coming from within the home when nobody was in there except the professor. Like, he wasn't doing this, like, it is absolutely 100% authentic. Everybody really wanted to make sure that this was not some sort of hoax, so the people who were studying these faces sealed off the doors and the windows within the home. They sealed off the kitchen so that nobody could get in there, and then they put like this sheet kind of thing over top of where the faces were appearing, just to make sure that nobody was tampering with the flooring or anything like that, to make sure that this was all real and that there wasn't anything else going on here. And they left it like that for, I believe, 3 months, and when they opened up the kitchen again and removed what they had covering the flooring, the faces had shifted, proving that nobody was doing this and it was not a hoax. Majority of the time, these faces wouldn't shift or appear if Maria was not around. They really only started to appear and shift and change positions if Maria was in their presence. So people really thought at first that she was somehow doing this, that this was some kind of hoax, but once they sealed off the kitchen and the flooring, this really proved that it was not Maria doing this and that something else was happening that was causing these faces on the floor. Another interesting fact is that prior to this, Maria had claimed that she had psychic abilities. So several people who had heard about this, who knew Maria, who knew that she was claiming to be psychic, thought that maybe she was doing this as some kind of hoax to prove her psychic abilities, but again, she was not doing this, and that had been proven several times at this. But this is all like insane and super crazy, right? When I first came across this case, my mind was blown. I was like, what the heck? How does that even happen? So now let's talk about some of the theories that people had of how these faces were appearing on the ground. The first theory that was brought up was that somehow these faces were appearing on the ground due to the lighting in the house or in that room. However, due to all of the experiments that were done on the concrete and within the home, this theory was completely ruled out. The second and main theory in this case is that something called thoughtography was occurring within the home. Now, I had never heard of this before diving into this case, but this in itself, to me at least, seems extremely paranormal. However, when I was researching for this, people were like, this is the only explanation that isn't paranormal. But I'm going to read you the definition off of Google, and you tell me that this does not sound paranormal to you. Thoughtography, also called project thermography, psychic photography, nengraphy, and nesha, is the claimed ability to burn images from one's mind onto surfaces such as photographic film by parapsychic means. So that means that you're thinking about something in your brain and it is appearing on a physical surface. Does that not seem paranormal to you? I don't have that ability. Do any of you guys? You're gonna have to let me know in the comments if you or anybody that you know can do this. I don't know, that in itself just seems absolutely insane to me, but people thought that this was happening due to the fact that, again, the faces only really appeared to change or appear when Maria was in their presence. And on top of that, Maria had claimed to be psychic, so many people thought that somehow she was doing this with her mind, especially because it had seemed that the faces would appear and change along with Maria's moods. Now listen to this insanity. When Maria ended up passing away due to old age, the faces would no longer appear in the home on the kitchen floor where they were originally appearing, but now they were appearing in Maria's childhood home. Is that not freaking insane? Now, they were appearing in Maria's childhood home, and it is said that these faces are still appearing in that home today, and they still tend to change and do all this kind of crazy stuff in that house to this day. It's really weird how these faces are only appearing in homes that Maria has links to. It is just absolutely mind-blowing. Science hasn't proved anything against this. Nobody can really come up with an explanation. It is all just absolutely crazy. But guys, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. Sorry if this one was a little bit shorter. Like I mentioned, I've had a lot going on and I've been really stressed out and haven't really had all of the time that I would like to focus on YouTube. Also, I profusely apologize if you can hear screaming in the background. My 3-year-old niece is having a meltdown downstairs because her mother put braids in her hair, and this has been going on for 45 minutes. I don't know what's happening, but this is the only time that I had to film. Can you hear that? Insanity. There's way too many people living in this house. But anyways, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.